Hello, everybody. Eddie Webb, and welcome to the new media lab at Mesa Community College. We have a special guest today. It's very exciting for us because we're starting our presidential series, and we are going to be podcasting with all 10 community college presidents over the next year. And our first guest is Dr. Eric Leshinskie from Scottsdale Community College. Eric has a pretty wide reputation amongst faculty who have seen him as an advocate for projects in Mexico across the district. Eric was asked to step in as the interim provost at the district under Chancellor Stephen Gonzalez, and that's where, the second time we met, the first time was the presentation at Paradise Valley. We wanted to build at that time 10 new media labs across the district, and we're still trying to do that. But this morning, we want to welcome Eric. How you doing?
I'm doing great, and it's my pleasure to be here, Dr. Webb. I'm excited to be part of the podcast series and excited to be the first president getting asked. It's my honor and privilege to be here.
Yeah, we thought we would start with the college on Indian land, although, it's all Indian land, but currently a recognized tribal nation. To me, I think that's must just be the most amazing thing to have a college on a tribal nation and not just work with all citizens of Maricopa, but to, as your mission and value statement says, that you are also very dedicated to student service programs geared to the unique needs and interests of Native American students. What are some of those unique needs that you have identified?
Sure. And again, we are honored to be part of the Salt River Pima Maricopa Indian community. It is truly a special relationship that we have with them. It's one that over our 50-year history has probably had both some strengths and some opportunities in being able to support SRP MIC as we've tried to create. So one aspect that's developed in the last few years is that we have opened some dedicated space, the Indigenous Cultural Center, the ICC that we affectionately call it. And it opened just prior to the pandemic. So it was opened, and then we sort of had this glitch, if you will, from a standpoint of being on campus and physical presence. But what we've done with that is we're doing our best to create space that is dedicated to those Native American students who come to our campus, that they have a place that they feel comfortable, they feel welcome, they feel included. Now, obviously, you want that to be for the entire campus and not as if it's just a separate building or a space that is only for that. But we also know it's important that we have a living, breathing building that has people and support and staff and learning spaces that are honoring our SRP MIC neighbors who welcome us with open arms. Also, we're very interested in creating relationships at a very early age with those students who are with SRP MIC. It's important that we connect with our families. It's important that we connect with the students so they can view Scottsdale Community College as a place where they can come and learn, come to explore, come to grow in whatever their interests may be. If those are career interests, if those are personal interests, those are interests of maybe further transfer to university. In my first few months there, I've been very much in a learning stage myself. I've had the opportunity to engage with President Javier, who's the president of Salt River Pima Maricopa Indian Nation, and we've had 2 or 3 opportunities to engage and talk about how can Scottsdale Community College be a better partner, a better supporter of the work. And what I've learned, honestly, in my first few months is, first and foremost, it's important that we listen with open ears, listen with open heart, so that way we can better understand where we can be contributors to help further the goals of that nation, as opposed to being too passive, if you will, and just waiting for folks to ask what they may need. So I'm pleased that we have dedicated space. I'm pleased that we have a community that's embracing additional support, additional outreach, additional conversations and relationship building. I'm optimistic that we'll be able to develop shared programming, creative solutions together that will help us to advance whatever those needs and goals are for SRP MIC.
Well, that's excellent. I'm glad to know you're having a dialogue with the president over there. I think this is the one thing for our listeners to understand about American Indian nations is that we're not minorities, and we have special treaty to treaty relationships with the government. And a big part of all of those treaties way back, post Civil War era, even, I don't like saying the guy's name, but under Indian Removal Act, a lot of the treaties were centered around education. And so especially the state of Arizona, has an obligation to create those spaces, as I say. Years ago, we did native seed revitalization programs, and elders came here and gave us this name, a place of belonging, and taught all of the students, the summer students were mostly all tribal members, that, this consciousness of belonging, that's what talking sticks around here. They would travel. For us, it was our sacred fires, and our stomp dances, and our songs. But a place of belonging has always been a part of our consciousness, belonging to the earth. And now Maricopa has adopted this, everywhere you go now, it's sense of belonging, or I belong. And once again, I know American Indian people have influenced the world in the way we think. And I just think that is really, really beautiful. But I do want people to recognize where the origins of that thinking comes from, and to know that Scottsdale stepped up and committed to. I mean, I've been over there where Anna's work. I mean, it is state of the art.
Yeah.
Yeah. So congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah.
On that.
The space itself is very much in honor of the land around us, and the sense of we also belong as part of the earth and nature around us as well. So there's different architectural features of the building that are meant to represent and support that. And I love hearing, and even just today as I walked on campus of Mesa's campus, like you mentioned, you see those, I saw some signage of "You belong here," and Mesa is where you belong. And I think that is a great influence. And I like seeing that across Maricopa, of making sure that we are creating campus environments where all students feel a sense of belonging and a sense of connection when they come on campus.
Yeah, and especially if they really do.
Mm-hmm.
That's even better, right? I went to film school at Scottsdale Community College because I couldn't get enrolled at Mesa Community College. It was so frustrating. I had to prove I was a citizen like 3 different times. Finally, I just gave up, and I went over to Scottsdale, and I was enrolled in like 10 minutes.
Well, that's great to hear.
Yeah, man. And it was like the best experience ever. It really changed my life. Dr. Penelope Price, who was actually an English teacher as well, started the documentary film school over there. And it was thriving when I was there. And I understand that part of it has sort of gone away, and people are looking more towards mainstream feature film production. But I really hope the research part, the documentary school comes back, because it was, like I say, when I was there 15 years ago or so, it was just a hub of artists and thinkers, and
Well, I think the School of Film and Theater is still that hub. Maybe the focus has changed, as you've mentioned, but you're right. There's, from whether it's the production of feature films to the writing and crafting of screenplays or scripting, or to being someone who's working behind the scenes in the more production or technology side of it as well. The School of Film and Theater is indeed thriving. From the pandemic, we obviously had challenges with enrollment across the system, really across the nation with community college enrollment. But right now at SCC, one of our programs that is in growth mode, meaning that we have more students than we've ever had, is our School of Film and Theater. And so we're very excited that the space is growing, the enrollment is growing, and the excitement around the program is growing as well. As I talked to the director of the program, Bill True, he assures me that when students are graduating our program, they are sought after to work and to be part of film production crews, whether locally here in Arizona, as we know we have a growing film industry, or it's possibly in the LA market area where we know the film industry is thriving. So we're very excited for that program. The space is beautiful. The faculty are incredible. And what I've enjoyed is getting to know the students of the program since I've been part of the college this fall semester. And they are talented in so many ways, from the behind the scenes talents that you see to then the operating of the camera to operating the boom mic, whatever that may be. And a few students I've run into have their own screenplays they've written, and they're really optimistic that those screenplays will one day turn into feature films, as you described.
Yeah, awesome. So if you're listening to this, tell your friends and family that Scottsdale Community College is the place to be for, and not just the front end of film, but we have, as I'm looking here, we got 3 people in our lab doing post production, and that's what I did years ago to update my teaching as an English professor was to integrate a media production, you know. And it's taken me a while to find the balance of what's too much, what's too little, but it's going very, very well. And I think today, anybody, looking at a professional or in any level of employment, it doesn't hurt to know some good media techniques.
Absolutely. It's really ubiquitous, if you will, in that no matter what your profession will be, your ability to have a technology background, a media development background, if you will, is only going to strengthen your career opportunities. So, yes, of course, the School of Film and Theater, it's very important that you're involved in that, you're immersed in that. But we also have a visual communication program and other elements of aspects of what we offer at the college where these skill sets are quite important. And as I look at the students around here, I know they could run circles around me right now in my media knowledge, and it's only going to take them farther in life. And so it's fantastic that they have that skill set, and it's going to prove dividends for them down the road.
Part of your mission statement here is to provide innovative and creative opportunities to learn and grow. So outside of the film school and the program you just mentioned, what else you got cooking over there?
Sure, and I'll use cooking as the word to play off of right away. So we actually have a culinary program that is quite thriving as well. So our culinary program is one that we have a student-run, a student-led restaurant on campus that's open 3 days a week, serving lunch Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. And that's the living classroom, if you will, where students are in the front end of the house, where they're our service, if you will, the hospitality part of it. But they're also the back end where they're the ones preparing the meals. And the meals are pretty impressive gourmet, if you will, lunchtime meals where it's a 3-course option with, that type of hors d'oeuvre or salad, if you will, and then the main entree or sandwich. And then the dessert flight at the end is somewhat spectacular. But in all cases, students are the ones preparing. They are the ones serving. They are the ones providing that, 100% comprehensive service in the restaurant, which we affectionately call the Artichoke Grill. So that is a wonderful place where you can see learning come alive. And I think that's just an outstanding aspect of who we are. Another outstanding aspect I want to highlight is really we have a very strong undergraduate research program at the college. I just had the pleasure of this last week attending an undergraduate research symposium. And again, a lot of the content being presented, I'll be quite honest with you, couldn't quite follow all of it as I'm an English major myself. So as they were talking about this very comprehensive, detailed study of beetles and not the musicians, but the actual insect. And they were talking about the work they've done with that. It was quite impressive. And what I see at Scottsdale right now is we have these incredible hidden pockets of just scholarly innovation that's occurring. And one example was our undergraduate research work that I saw in full force. And then another element that I think is that's unique to Scottsdale and really shows our also connection to nature is we have a building or a small building we call CNU, and it stands for the Center for Native and Urban Wildlife. And in that space are some native different insects and snakes and lizards and other small creatures that, quite honestly, when I went in there the first time, I can't say my comfort level was very high, but the folks around me reassured me that everything around there was safe. And we have that CNU building, which attracts elementary schools. 2 or 3 come in a week, where students come in and they take a small tour, an educational learning experience of that. And our students provide some of the educational opportunities there as well within CNU. And again, it shows our commitment to sort of this innovative living laboratory that's occurring on campus in different spaces. And I love our faculty that support this. They're amazing, talented individuals. And most importantly, I love seeing the bright smiles on our students, whether it's our students or our future students who are coming to experience it as part of an elementary school field trip. They truly get to see, science in action. And it's pretty awesome to see their faces light up. They could see themselves there someday, studying, at Scottsdale, looking at some of the pretty cool undergraduate research or our Center for Native and Urban Wildlife.
I think you have the greatest job in the world. Like, yeah,
Thanks.
congratulations,
Yeah, no, it's
man.
it's
I
it's
mean,
incredible to
wow,
highlight.
just
Yeah, to highlight
right?
all the wonderful programs is pretty awesome.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, Scottsdale Community College, you guys, if you're listening, is just an absolute amazing place. And if you're listening in a different part of Maricopa, it's set in such a beautiful area, but the uh, the energy over there, it to me always felt more like a university. There was an excitement around, intellectual curiosity and then creativity because it was like where I was at, it was all those people that refused to be domesticated, and kind of quirky and don't fit in with traditional ways of Eurocentric anything. And we were able to thrive there. And I think that's the most memorable experience I have as a student is that thought was encouraged, reflection, critical thinking, and to know that you're at the helm of all of these amazing programs. I mean, yeah, that's pretty exciting.
That's very exciting, and
Yeah.
quite honestly, it's very humbling at times. As I, even this morning was walking around campus. We had a gift collection event going on that we were going to donate to a local community, and so I was just walking across campus to deliver some gifts, and it's humbling when you walk by different classroom spaces. I walked past our equine center classroom that was in session. Just kind of peeked in. They didn't see me peek in, but I wanted to see just the activity, the energy that's going on. And I walked by a few of our outdoor amphitheaters, and that's what I enjoy too. Is although this morning was a sort of a cloudy, rainy morning, but there's many afternoons you can walk by. And you'll go by our outdoor amphitheater, and there you'll see different creative writing students that are crafting that next masterpiece, if you will, or that next poem where they're trying to get that perfect word or that perfect phrase to make things happen. And that's what I've enjoyed as the president is my opportunity to engage with our students, to engage with our faculty, to listen and learn from them. They're amazing and talented. Their stories are incredible. But what's so amazing to me is that the opportunities that's in front of them, like when you hear students talk about what's next and what might be next, that hope, that inspiration they find. And if we're part of that process, how amazing that we can be that for them. And ideally, we'll do our best to continue to spark that curiosity, as you put it, Dr. Webb. And when students come to us, we'll challenge them to think critically, to think creatively. And ideally, they'll leave Scottsdale when the time is right and move on to whatever that next step is for them. But they'll do so, accompanied with the tools to help them be successful with whatever that next chapter might be.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is what the taxpayer has charged us with, is the best that we can provide a healthy learning environment. And I like the fact that as a president, you've mentioned several times a part of your process is to listen.
Mm-hmm.
That I think, the ability for people in positions that you have, the ability to listen, I think is super key, I challenge myself to be reading 2 to 3 books at all times. And now because of Audible, I listen more. I'll actually buy the book and listen along and speed it up and see how fast I can go. But one of my favorite writers is John F. Kennedy. And, he wrote that for him to be successful, he learned early on as the president, he understood he had to make the people around him successful. And that's how you become successful. And I've always liked that. I always key into leaders who understand what sovereignty is. And I don't want to get into academic freedom, but just the ability to see talent in someone and let them, give, Dr. Gonzalez was on. And when he was asked to sit in as the chancellor, as the interim chancellor, he said he would do it as long as he was given the tools to be successful.
Yeah.
And I think that's what, makes a great college is the ability. That's real leadership to me.
Sure.
So I don't know was this the mission statement that you inherited or are you, because I see a lot of virtue words in here. And I was just wanting to ask about setting high standards.
So yeah, what you've shared here, the values, the mission statement, vision statement, correct. That's what I inherited when I stepped in the role in July, and I was committed to, when I walked in, to again do some listening, as you mentioned. And right now, we're honoring and keeping true to heart the core values that you see there. Possibly down the road, there will be a time and place where it'll be the right time, and we'll do so in a very shared, governance, inclusive way to determine, are those values still the ones that we believe are best for our community that we serve, are best for our students. But right now, those are the values. And when you mentioned high standards, I think I'm excited that that's part of our commitment. And we have high standards for both in the classroom and outside the classroom. And in the classroom, I think it's important that we emphasize with our faculty that we are doing all we can do to create a culture of success at the college, a culture where we need to do uh, all that we can do to provide the support services, to provide the learning environment, provide sometimes resources outside the classroom if there's a food insecurity that a student might be experiencing. That what can we do to provide that type of support in that moment to help that student thrive? But to do so, it's important that in no way are we lessening the rigor of what that experience needs to be. It's important that we don't have a deficit mindset, meaning if students are coming to us with potentially those hardships that they experienced, it doesn't mean then we have to lower our standards by any means. Quite honestly, it means that we keep our standards as they are. We have high expectations. Students will rise to high expectations. I firmly believe that in my 20 plus years of being part of education, that students will rise to those expectations. But it's important that we do all we can do to provide the support for those students then to be able to rise to those expectations. And I'm committed to that as the president and committed to working with our leadership across our college and across our system, that if we need to think differently about our academic support services, about our student support services, that we do so. And we find ways to partner with outside agencies and organizations that can help us meet our students' needs. So that way they're able to thrive in the classroom. But we're committed to continuing that high level of rigor, those high standards. We have them for our students. And then, quite honestly, Dr. Webb, I'm hoping we have them for ourselves too. That
Yeah.
we, as a community of employees and faculty and staff that are supporting our students, that we have high standards of each other. One piece that I've really tried to instill with our teams is this culture of care. And I literally mean that. I want our faculty, staff, administrators that when they're on campus, they're doing all they can do to model this culture of care, that when they see a student, they greet the student with a smile, ask how you're doing. Do you know where you're going on campus if someone looks lost? Ask them how their semester's been. Have they registered for the spring semester? What's the next step for them? It's important that we do all we can do and have high expectations of ourselves as employees, that we're committed to our students to provide that sense of care. That's important. I firmly believe that students will also not only hopefully remember what they learn here. They'll remember those facts and details, et cetera, sure, but they'll also remember how the college made them feel. That it made them feel safe, it made them feel challenged, it made them feel cared for. I think it's important that we do that as well.
I've been in the classroom for 26 years. This is the roughest semester I've ever had. And it's been in here. Normally we have food on the table, we make food, we provide food, we try to make this a place that students want to be. But I'm a little concerned about the preparedness of students that are showing up. And it's almost as if there needs to be a semester of learning how to be a student. Um, and I agree that high standards, mandating that people be nice to each other and decent is, interesting.
Sure.
But absolutely. But I think because of COVID, I think because this culture that we find ourselves in, what is a face-to-face class? What is a uh, an online class? What is a hybrid class? We're all using Canvas, where, in the past, when you're a teacher, you had the grade book, and you built one-on-one or larger relationships with your students. And now that part of it's even become a little more mechanical and impersonal, very task-oriented. That's one of the shifts I see that a lot of us are having to make of how to balance high standards with a new culture. It's
Yeah.
kind of tricky.
Oh, it's very tricky, and you're right. We're almost learning how it is to be to be a college again. Quite honestly, what it feels like to have students on campus and faculty on campus. What does that feel like? It feels different, and what you're describing about it being a very, like you said, one of the most challenging semesters you've had. I've heard that story too, back at Scottsdale, and also as I connect with folks across the system. And I think we're all trying to figure out what this next stage or step of learning looks and feels like for us. What do our students need? Are we listening to their needs? Are we thinking about what we've traditionally done? And are we in any way willing to modify that to hopefully align with what our students' needs? I so appreciate what you said about the task oriented feel at times. And education shouldn't be that.
That's
Um,
right.
it really should be relationship based. It should be about the relationships that faculty have with their students to challenge them to learn and grow and learn the content and think differently about it. That's critical, and I do think we lost some of that during the pandemic. Um, Now, I don't fault us for that. I mean, we had to truly shift education in a manner to be able to continue to provide instruction in a remote way. And now I think we're trying to figure out what's that balance. There's a place for online learning. I don't question that, but there's also a place for in-person learning experiences. And to me, we have to find that right balance so that students can, those students who want to learn in person and feel that they thrive in that space, that we're able to create those opportunities across whatever discipline is that they can learn and grow in person. And then for those who are more inclined to want to learn in the online environment, how do we create that learning experiences in that environment that feels less task oriented as you described,
Yeah.
and is that meaningful connection with a faculty member, a meaningful connection with another student? That's often where I think we lose sight of the peer-to-peer connection that is so meaningful in the classroom setting, in the classroom. How do we create that in the virtual classroom, and can we do so in a meaningful way? And to me, that's what I felt was really missing, is the peer-to-peer connections between our students. And I think right now on campus, that's where I see we're really trying to regrow those peer-to-peer connections, from club participation to study groups in the classroom, to where students just connect with each other. Because that's the college experience. That's the learning.
That's right.
That's the life experience,
Yeah.
is that type of peer-to-peer connections. And right now, I feel like that's where we're not there yet. Even as like a community of employees who support the learning, I think we're still trying to reform those relationships with each other.
Right.
We've had a couple all college meetings, and honestly, they felt like reunions, if that makes sense, where it was folks who hadn't been together for a good year, 18 months, in some cases 24 months, and folks were coming together for the first time in a long time, and it felt like a reunion. Hopefully, though, as we continue to grow as a college, it doesn't feel more like a reunion. It just feels like it's how we're connecting with each other, that we're connecting more intentionally and in person. Because I think it matters. I think people want to also feel, not only do students when they feel that they want to feel that they belong and that's something they can live out. I think employees do too. They want to come to a place where they work and feel that their voice matters, feel that that they have colleagues that also are invested in them in some regard. So I can relate to the statement of that you made. That's been a really hard semester, one of the hardest you've had in your 26 years.
Yeah.
I think for all of us, it's been in some ways, it's been very inspiring to see this sort of rebirth, this new life, if you will, happening on our campuses. But it's been hard. It's been challenging on all of us.
I mean, you know, we took 10 campuses from face to face to 100% online at the, mandate of the government. And to that task alone was unbelievable.
Right.
It really speaks to the quality of people we have across all 10 campuses. And we did it. And now, that's what I do miss. I miss the peer-to-peer relationships, because I used to do lots and lots of group projects and build, people, 4 or 5 people in a team and all that. And that's the part I miss. Uh, and we want part of our mission is the college spirit is young people learn how to participate in life.
Mm-hmm.
When they leave here. So yeah, hopefully in the next couple years we'll get that normalcy,
Yeah.
and I know we will figure it out, and so will the students.
Well,
Yeah,
what's really interesting about that one statement you said, the used to,
yeah.
that for me has almost been this recurring phrase that I've heard
Yeah.
in my my first five
Ah,
6 months. I'd ask a question and I'll hear whether it's one of our student service professionals, whether it's a faculty member, but I hear, oh, well, we used to, and then insert whatever that might be. You used to be offering group projects in your class, or probably still do, but maybe not to the breadth that they were. And so I'm challenging our college to think about, okay, let's review all the used tos that we've said now. Which do we need to bring back in a manner because we know they were meaningful, we know that they were effective, we know that they made a difference in students' lives. Let's explore the used tos and see if we can come back to bringing that back, whether it's the same or maybe we modify it, maybe we enhance it, maybe we make it even stronger for our students. But I think if you go across all 10 of our campuses, you'll hear that theme of, well, we used to.
wow.
And now I think the question is, well, why don't we? And maybe we should. Maybe we should be moving forward with some aspects of this. And so, again, we're in that. I think we're across that. But when you said that, it really struck a chord. It resonated for
Yeah.
me because that's been a common sort of statement that I think we're all hearing, really just across higher education right now, is sort of the used to. And let's figure out what it is that we can do and should do to benefit our students.
So if you're a young faculty member just getting started and you're looking, I smell a dissertation right there. What a great title of a book too. Yeah, what we used to do. So, a couple more things here before we let you go, and we want to thank you again for taking time out of your busy day to visit us. Um, I'd like to hear your thinking on inclusiveness. And here it says embracing a diversity of voices, viewpoints, and experience. What does that
Yeah.
mean to you when you read that?
Oh, that's a fascinating question. So I'm looking at our current structure of our college, the makeup of our faculty, staff, employees. When we bring groups together, I think it's important to think and review who's at our table. And it's very important to also acknowledge who's not at our table right now.
Right.
And that's where we have to be very intentional about that. So in the short term, Dr. Webb, we're looking at making sure that when we are bringing groups across the table, groups across the college to the table to make decisions about our future, that we're doing so in an inclusive manner to make sure that different voices across the college are heard, are represented, and valued. I've been in some settings where it's very clear our intentions are in the right place, but we're not necessarily we're not examining who's not at the table, what groups are not represented. So that's the first and foremost. I'm having us look at that. Secondly, for me, that I think is the next phase for us as we think about inclusivity and equity across our college is looking at how we are staffing both our classrooms, our administrative team, our staff as well, to ensure that we have an employee group that is representative of the students who also come to Scottsdale Community College. It's this challenge we've experienced across Maricopa since I've been in Maricopa, going on 19 plus years now.
Mm.
We've looked at ways to how we can better bring diversity of thought, diversity of perspective, diversity of background into our campus, because that creates a more rich dialogue, a more rich culture that I think we can grow and benefit from. However, over the years, we've not necessarily seen an increase in the percentages of faculty or administrators in different that represent different groups, whether that's age groups, whether that's ethnic groups, whether that's sometimes educational upbringing and backgrounds too. And it's important that we are very thoughtful and that we are very intentional about how we do better in that space. So for me, I'm also very interested in looking at our outcomes across the college, and are we creating an environment where all students have an equitable opportunity to be successful. And right now, if you look at some of our data, it's pretty clear that there are pockets of our college, of our students, who are not as successful as other groups across the college. And in the past, we would probably look more at the students and ask, what are the students doing or not doing in that to not be successful, if you will. And now I'm really hoping we start reframing that to what more can we be doing as a college to be better prepared for the students who we're serving, to be better ready for the students when they come to us, so that way we can create learning environments where all students have an equitable opportunity to be successful. So for me, inclusivity, diversity, it's important that we examine how we're making decisions and whose voices we're seeking and listening and then informing those decisions. It's important that we look at the makeup of who we are as a whole faculty, staff, and administrative team. And then I'm very curious about how we're exploring our outcomes. And then we use the data to help inform decisions we can make to better support students, all students, in achieving the outcomes they want.
Yeah, that's wonderful, and it's why I prefer consensus leadership rather than majority rule leadership, because consensus allows people at the table that you disagree with, maybe, or maybe you don't quite understand their perspective at the moment, but consensus allows that, whereas majority rule sort of squashes, any other thing but the majority perspective, which is, just because there's a whole bunch of people that can be wrong, I think across the history of our country, it's been smaller groups of people that have made some of the biggest changes that we endure. So having, again, back to that ability to listen to people and, tailor that, when you're trained as a teacher, there's these standards that come down through our legislature and our boards, our degrees, our certificates. But I think today we need a little more flexibility, that one size learning or one size curriculum doesn't fit all. And it's okay. That's what I'm going to start doing. That's the lessons I've learned. I've revamped my syllabi and my projects to make them more flexible, to understand how a particular person might learn or not learn, and to take time with that. So I'm going to start listening more myself. So I thank you for that. Dr. Eric Leshinskie here from Scottsdale Community College, a new president across the district. I wouldn't say you're a dude. Actually, even though you have a new title, you've been a very effective leader for a long time. Jaime Herrera was telling me all about the wonderful leadership you provided for his Guanajuato, his project in Mexico City, the faculty exchange. I know you were scheduled to go this year, and then I think you didn't get to go, and he told me he was really disappointed that he didn't get to hang out.
There's some transitional from the different roles I was in, but Dr. Herrera is amazing, and I would just listen and tell me what you need, and let's figure out a way to make that happen. Yeah, he's a wonderful man, wonderful leader.
Yeah. All right, everybody, we want to thank you for listening. We absolutely want to thank you for taking, I know how valuable your time is, so to make room for us, we really do appreciate it. As I say in my dad's language, Eric, thank you.
Thank you very much. My pleasure.